Do we know the difference between illusion and reality? I mean, the line that divides them is a fuzzy one. After all, look at all the time that we delight in the false realities that we construct for ourselves. I mean, we're immersed in images and sound bites. I mean, wavelengths bounce off satellites and they fill the air around us. We are in a world of illusion where we often think that the shadow is the real thing. I mean, is something only real when you see it on TV? These illusions are seductive. They draw us in, so much so that we forget the fact of our imprisonment. We become, in the words of René Descartes, not unlike a prisoner who might enjoy an imaginary freedom in his sleep. When he later begins to suspect he is sleeping, he fears being awakened. He conspires slowly with these pleasant illusions. Scary, isn't it? What a nightmare! We are all prisoners of our own ignorance. The flickering images on the cave wall are as real as we can know, and for all we know, they are real. But if we are freed,
turn it off! Turn it off!
After a while, you do get used to the brightness. Oh, what fools my fellow prisoners are! The shadows on the cave wall are only illusions. And the fire and the objects that cast the shadows, those are what's real. What an unsettling experience this is! Rough! Ooh. Mess. This is living. Is this all there is? Well, once we start seeking the truth, we find that the cave of our daily lives is, well, at best, an incomplete part of the whole. At worst, it's an illusion that keeps us from knowing the truth, from knowing the rest of the story. So what is this cave Plato wrote about thousands of years ago? Well, first of all, it's an allegory, which means it didn't really happen. It's about more than just a cave. In fact, the cave could be about the education of the soul. It could be about analysis of political structures. Hey, you know what? As an allegory, it's open to lots of interpretations, so read the book yourself. Plato's Republic. Don't leave home without it. Now, some people think the cave is about how we get to know stuff, which is easy as really as 1 + 2 = 3. 1 + 2. Well, what is a number? I mean, that's just a finger, isn't it? That's not 1. Well, I wonder what Plato said about it. Hang on 1 second. Oimai, kase idenai, heti hoi paritas geometrias. Oh, you probably want this in English, don't you? All right, let me see.
All right, let me see.
Here we go. You know that students of geometry and calculation and others begin by assuming there are odd and even numbers, geometrical figures, and the three forms of angle. You know too that they make use of and argue about visible figures, though they are not really thinking about them, but are thinking about the originals which they resemble. It is not about the square or diagonal which they have drawn that they are arguing, but about the square itself, or the diagonal itself, or whatever the figure may be. The actual figures they draw or model, which themselves cast their shadows and reflections in water, these they treat as images only, the real objects of their investigations being invisible except to the eye of reason. Plato says that this eye of reason within the soul is 10,000 times more precious than your bodily eyes. 10,000 times! Can you believe what you're hearing? A note. Get it? I think that's an A. Whether it's an example of A or it's a pure A, I'm not sure Can you see what we're hearing here? Am I making any sense? Can we understand what we're hearing? To do so, we're going to need mathematics. And to generate that A, we can use a mathematical formula. It's a y equals sine 2 pi times 440 second per second times t. And that sine wave is going to be able to let us generate that A anywhere in the universe. We understand a particular example by appealing to a universal form. From the concrete, we abstract truth.
Take this rock falling to the ground. It's an example of a freely falling object. If we measure how long it takes, we get some numbers. And those numbers fit into the equation delta x equals 1/2 gt squared. That's a general equation for falling objects all around the world. It's universally true. In fact, the ideas of numbers expressed in that equation are just as real as things like this rock. In fact, maybe they're more real. They don't have pieces. They can't fall apart. They're universally true.
So how do we get to this realm of ideas? Well, Plato gives us a map. The divided line. The divided line shows two basic types of reality. Physical reality, which consists of physical objects, and further down, the shadows or images they create, and mental reality, which Plato calls the intelligible world. We are about here, still in the cave, but heading up away from the shadows and illusion and toward ideas, towards the light, outside of the cave. But we're not really here. We're not on this map, this abstract thing. We're here in this physical cave. For Plato, even if we do have a map, we don't always escape from our cave. It is indeed difficult to leave the pleasures of the physical world behind. Now, take St. Augustine, for example. Here's a nice kid, 16 years old, got a good school, got a good home. One day in about 370 A.D., he and his buds are hanging around the pear orchard next to his family's vineyard. And they look at the pears, and then they look around, and then they look at each other. And then they reach back into the pear orchard. And they start taking the pears, not just one pear. No, they take all the pears, armfuls of pears, and stuff them into their shirts. And then they start eating pears. Augustine's conscience knows better. He confesses to God, and I'm quoting here, I've taken to loving the things you created, rather than loving you. Because the world is drunk on the invisible wine. Well, that's very good. Invisible wine of its own perverted, earthbound will. Talk about guilt. Augustine was the first of the Platonists to steal Plato's schema for religious purposes. Augustine was shackled by the pleasures of the physical, and only divine intervention would free him. But for Plato, it was the forms that drew you upwards. I'm exhausted. As Plato wrote, for most mortals, sensual pleasures are like leaden weights attached to them at their birth, which drag them down and turn the vision of their souls upon the things that are below. Born into a cave of sensual illusions, Augustine escaped the lower world only with great personal effort and the light of God guiding him upward. Ah, the light! Plato's forms shine down on us like the sun, the divine metaphor that rises again and again in the religions of the Western world. The beacon of salvation guides us through trial and tribulations, overcoming the blindness of ignorance. As Plato knew, in this ascent of the soul, sometimes we must be dragged shamefully upward through the dirt, but in our better moments, we struggle heroically toward the light. But whether we're pulled or called, by the time we reach the surface, we're blinded again, this time by the sun. And since this is an allegory, we can say that the prisoner is blinded by the divine and the eternal and the good. As his eyes adjust, he's able to behold the glorious realm of the forms. But soon, he realizes his duty. He must return to the cave to free the other prisoners from their pathetic ignorance. As the prisoner returns to the cave, his eyes have grown unaccustomed to the dark. He is clumsy and appears the fool. Ow! Deep in the cave, his mad rantings about an upper realm provoke only laughter and ridicule. The chained prisoners see only shadows. Any who contradict their version of reality are ostracized, or worse, executed. Socrates, who suggested he be honored for his efforts to enlighten others, was forced to drink hemlock.
This is his reward for trying to bring into the cave the light of the sun.
Is it possible that the returning prisoner was mistreated because he was wrong? I mean, there is no eternal divine reality. Reality in ever-changing flux that we can measure and manipulate. And in the modern world, we have tools that can throw light on our objects of investigation. And with scientific apparatus and a better map, today's empirical modern philosopher applies a practical approach. Now, from this 2020 perspective, we start with what we can see, hear, and touch. And as for Plato's forms, well, we'll believe him when we see him. Watch your head! Now, on the surface, Plato's metaphysics seems, well, rather odd. How can ideas be independent of and and prior to physical existence. The intelligible does not give birth to the physical. Ideas don't make rocks. Plato's map is all wrong. Look, shouldn't physical objects be mapped at the top as the most real thing? I mean, Plato's got it upside down. There. That's better. The real world. Physical objects cause their shadows and reflections. On that we can agree with Plato. But physical objects also create ideas. We see many triangular objects, and we come to imagine the idea of triangle. Plato's forms don't rule. You know, forms did rule. If there was a hierarchy of knowledge, then it would be so easy to think that knowledge was above some people, that some people would never be able to escape the cave. Could be dangerous. And, you know, from metaphysical hierarchies flow hierarchies of knowledge, and from those can flow hierarchies of social status and political power. You know, Plato spoke of a social hierarchy made up of people of gold, of silver, and of bronze. And only the people of gold could grasp the highest levels of knowledge. And only they should rule. Now, Plato did not support a caste system based on inherited privilege. But, you know, throughout history, rulers have molded their golden image into the currency of power. And this power became political and it became permanent until the poor were left with nothing to lose but their chains, to coin a phrase. Now, even in a cave, most of us can grasp the truth. We know what is real and what is an illusion. But for slaves living in the United States, say in the 1850s, the power of hierarchy was very real. Power was chains and whips and racist law. And in caves like this, under the wilderness of America, they struggled north towards freedom, victims of a terrible hierarchy of power. Should we blame Plato for this? Well, why not? He certainly gets a lot of the credit. I think Alfred North Whitehead was close to the truth when he said that all Western philosophy is a footnote to Plato. But if we're going to blame Plato, we ought to give him some of the credit for helping us to see that maybe, just maybe, there is more to life than rocks and money. Plato gave us a map to a better world, a map that's within us still, isn't it? Visions of a better world, free from blood and tears, are what motivated those slaves to risk their lives. Faith in finding the light, whether it was the sunshine of freedom or the North Star above, these are the things that guided them out of their chains and out of the cave of racism. It's an amazing legacy, and one we should learn from. I just still don't know why so many people are content with the shadows.